Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Honest HR Nitrous. I am Bill, the company's expert, but you would know that already. You can recognize the best hair on YouTube, so you know it's me. It's Friday. We've got that Friday fielding and a Friday feeling, too. I'm in a good mood today, and I wanted to do a little bit of a lighter version of Honest HR Nitrous. This is the weekly live stream, or twice weekly live stream, where we talk about careers, hiring, job interviews, resumes, job interviews, discovering jobs, networking, all that kind of crap. That's what we're here to talk about. And this is a live, interactive live stream. So if you're seeing my beautiful face, then you should see a chat box somewhere in the vicinity. Get in the chat box and let me know your reactions. Let me know your questions, what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with, all that kind of stuff. I will try my best to help you out when it comes to this kind of stuff. The title of today's episode is Watch Your Effing Language. This is episode number 35 of Honest HR Nitrous. We're going to be talking about what to say in a job interview, what to say to professionals, what to say to executives, what to say to people who can help you in your career. That's what we're going to be talking about. I was just looking online just before I turned on the live stream here. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. And I don't know if anybody out there knows about the band L7. They were an all-female rock band, heavy rock band from way back in the day, where men were men and women were women, or almost men, as it turns out. And this is the drummer, D. Placus. And it just says here, Placus, who has been married since 1989, by the way, is perhaps the most infamous for a contest held during a live show in London in the year 2000, in which L7 raffled off a one-night stand with her. Yeah, with a married woman who plays the drums in a metal band. The winner got to spend the night on the tour bus. I thought that was hilarious. So you don't really get to hang out with her. You just get to sleep on a bus. And I was just wondering, if there was a contest where, the winner could get off the bus. That would be the prize for that. Listen, it's great to see you here. There are 15 people here. Thank you. Last time I attempted a live stream, my mic went out. Here's my beautiful microphone. It went out for like a full 5 minutes or something, and I'm talking away like an idiot with no sound. So if that happens again, let me know in the chat, and I'll try and pay more attention this time to what people are saying. EK is here. EK says, love your advice, sir. Currently plowing through interviews, and I'm rarely stumped. Awesome. Yeah, it's good to not be stumped in a job interview. It's usually a combination of being prepared, okay, and knowing your stuff, and having had experience doing live streams, doing job interviews before, because the more you do, the better you get. And last time, I think it was last live stream I said this. I said, the more interviews you do, the better you get. Maybe it was in a video, but I got someone that took me to task in the comments saying, yeah, right, if you could get like lots of job interviews, then that would be great, but I can't get any job interviews. All I'm saying is you need to practice. Now, do you need to be in an actual real job interview to practice these things? No. Find some friend or family member that somebody, like I always say, somebody loafing around the place that's not doing anything with their lives. Get them to help you practice your job interviews. Get them to pretend to be the interviewer and you be you play you, okay? Like that's the plan. And get them to ask you questions. And as I've always said, also, the great thing about this is that if it feels weird, that's good, because that simulates how you're probably going to be feeling in an actual job interview. And that way it's great training. It really shows you what of the stuff that you rehearsed, what you actually know and what you only think you know, right? And that allows you to go away and practice it a bit more. Flavio, if I'm saying that right. Flavio says, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to Flavio. Thank you for being here. Let me know what you guys are struggling with, wondering about when it comes to careers, and I will do my best to help you out if I possibly can. So, one thing I wanted to do today, you're probably wondering why this live stream is called Watch Your Effing Language. And that's because we're going to be talking about protocol and etiquette. Hopefully you know what those two words mean, because there is a protocol and an etiquette for how you behave in a job interview or any kind of interview. If you're doing informational interviews, same thing there. There's like a protocol of how these things usually go. And you're wondering maybe why this protocol exists. It's because the other person expects you to act in a certain way, okay? As an extreme example, if you were just going down for a meeting with them and you never met them before, and they approach you and they shake your hand, they say, hello, thank you for coming, and you drop a bunch of F-bombs, then obviously that would not be good, right? You would not be following the type of behavior that they're expecting of you. And that would result in a negative reaction. I think we can all see this, right? Well, dropping F-bombs is kind of an obvious example. There's a lot less obvious things in the etiquette too. And when we're young, we may not be aware of a lot of those. When we get older, if we've been working in the world of business for many years, it might be more intuitive how you're expected to act and what you're expected to say at different times. Okay, so I know for a lot of younger people or people that haven't done many job interviews, you might not know all this stuff. So I encourage you to do your best to learn it and to practice it. And this is one of the things you can do if you're doing mock interviews, if you're rehearsing job interviews with a friend or family member. Incidentally, if you want to get more professional help in doing this than a friend and family member, if you want to take the plunge, there's many people that you can work with. For example, on YouTube, there are a lot of YouTubers that are current, that they are recruiters now, or they're ex-recruiters. They can work with you. And sometimes you just need that other person to be able to get an objective first impression of you. So if you're doing something kind of that you don't realize you're doing that might be a bit off-putting, or it might be kind of strange, they can tell you, they can say like, listen, when you sit down, like don't sit in that posture. You look like you're all nervous and tense. It really doesn't, maybe just kind of relax a little bit. And like they can point out this stuff to you that you might not have an awareness of. So, there's many people that can provide this. And if you want to do it in person, depending on where you live, if you live like in a city somewhere, there's probably a ton of HR companies that are around you that provide these services. So if you wanted to go in that direction, you could get a professional to do this with you. But for most people, I think it's good is just to do mock interviews with a friend or family member. That's my impression. I see there's 16 people here. Get in the chat. Let me know what you guys are wondering with. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for questions to roll on in, let's do a little thing together here. Let's go to ChatGPT. I'd like to do this with you, because I could talk about it, but it might be a little bit easier if I did it like this, just by typing it in. So first of all, as a starting point for everyone, let's just get our terminology. As I misspell everything. So think of a job interview or think of an informational interview. Okay. Being polite is the foundation of all of this stuff, right? Because manners and being polite, in theory, they're supposed to result in the other person feeling good. They don't take offense. They don't get upset. They don't mistake something you're saying for some kind of weird insult, right? And they're made to feel welcome and made to feel appreciated, right? That's the whole point of manners. And manners has evolved into etiquette, right? What you're expected to do. And if you break etiquette, say in a job interview or any other kind of interaction, it's a turnoff for the other person. They look less favorably upon you. Okay? It is generally more flexible. It can be based on culture, personal preference, okay? How people dress, what you say, like how you address someone. And then you get protocol, okay? protocol is more formal and structured. It's, for official, diplomatic, or military contexts. It details specific procedures that must be followed in certain situations. Now, imagine if you went down for a job interview and they were expecting you to follow a certain protocol. They were expecting you to say a certain thing at a certain time, and you didn't. And you're unaware of this, but they're all of a sudden having an adverse reaction to you, and you can tell they're looking at you funny, and maybe their body language is a bit off, and you're wondering, like, did I do something wrong? Like, what's going on? All of a sudden, people seem a little more tense and unfriendly. It could be because of this. So if you're just starting out, or if you're trying to climb the ladder and you're trying to interact with like executives and things like this, it's well worth your while to learn this stuff. And things like ChatGPT and other chatbots are great tools to be able to do this. Okay, so it's more formal. It dictates specific procedures that must be followed in certain situations. Okay, and then it talks about like state ceremonies, but like here, business negotiations or official meetings. Okay, so personally for me over the years, I mean, I've reduced this to a set of almost like things you say and then responses you give when you meet someone. Okay, so for example, if you have a meeting with somebody new or you meet someone new, say you just did a job interview and the CEO came down to the interview or something, or the owner or some kind of senior manager was at the job interview. Okay. At the end of the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, you'd say something like, "It's nice to meet you," right? It's very, very nice to meet you, right? And then at the end of the encounter, when you're about to leave, you say, "It's very nice to have met you," things like this, right? Just protocol like that. That's what I've kind of reduced this to over the years. So I would encourage everyone, depending on your situation, what jobs you're going for, what level you're at, maybe you've never done a job interview before, and this is all kind of a mystery and a bit sort of nerve-wracking because you don't know how it works. The more you learn about this stuff in advance, the better you'll do, okay? And it's stuff you can practice too if you're doing mock interviews and things like that at home. Blanca is here. Blanca says, good morning. Blanca Rosa Lopez Urquiza. That's got some character. It's good to have a name that's got a bit of character to it. I'm Bill Todd. Right? It's like a 1-2 punch, Bill Todd, but it's boring, right? I wish I could say I'm Blanca Rosa Lopez Urquiza, right? And I could bastardize the accent like that, so it's even more insulting. Welcome, Blanca. Thank you for being here. Let me know what you're wondering about. Let me know what you're struggling with, and I will do my best to help you out. That's why I do these live streams. Yeah, obviously, it really helps to clean up your language, be polite, follow etiquette, and follow protocol when you're doing things like job interviews or when you're doing things like any kind of meeting or any kind of encounter with people that can help you out. There might be a job opportunity at the end of it. Excuse me. I'm still under the weather, and I did not take my medication for the flu. I did take my crazy pills, so it's okay. That way I can do these live streams and let it all just happen. Joseph is here, says, good morning, sir. I really need your assistance in landing a remote job. Okay, Joseph, well, let me know what you're wondering about. I need specifics. What level are you? What industry are you in? What you're going for? That kind of stuff. Now, if you just are looking for general advice, I do have a lot of videos on my channel. The thing is, how to answer job interview questions and stuff like that. I feel that I put like my answer into the videos. The videos are the definitive place to go to learn what I recommend on those, because they're crafted and they're thought through, and I do the script in advance. In the live streams, I can give you it, but it's a little more scattered. It's more off the cuff, so it might not be as good as that. But the live streams is where I can answer a more custom type question. So if you're just looking for general advice, like just to get started on the whole thing, check out my videos. If you're looking for something very specific, I'm happy to help you here. Yeah, let's get in the chat. I don't really have an agenda beyond what I've already done, so I'm just feeding off your questions and comments. So let me know what is up, and I will help you out. It's a very sunny day here. That's why I look like an angel, probably because my camera brightness is turned up so high. Joseph says, I'm in the technical support industry. Okay. You lucky bastard, you. I am envious. On the phone all day with customers. That's what a lot of people do in that industry. And in my experience, when you're not on the phone with customers, you're doing paperwork. So it's like a win-win, right? Real fun stuff. Really good for some people. Some people are just cut out for that. You know, in my experience, more extroverted types, they love talking to people, and they're good talking to people. It would probably be living hell for a lot of introverts. You know, if people call up and they have like sophisticated technical questions, you'd probably be okay. But if they're calling up and they're morons and they can't figure out, like, you know, the most basic thing, and you got to deal with them, you know, and they're mad too, that can be really, really trying for a lot of people. I remember it was back in the day. Like back in the day for me is like 40 years ago. So it was like Microsoft. They had that joke that was going around. There was a Microsoft tech support call where somebody called Microsoft and they said, you know, I got a problem. My new computer, it won't work, right? And then the tech support person ran them through this process. Like, okay, you know, like what are you looking at your screen? Like what do you see? And you know, the person says, well, it's blank. You know, I don't see anything. There's no writing there. So it goes on and on and on. And then he figured out that, you know, it's like, I can't see anything on my computer screen. It's like, well, can you read what it says on the box? What model is it? And he says, well, I can't read the box because the lights are out. And then the tech support person says, well, why does the lights out? And the customer says, like, well, because the power went out. And then the tech support person says, like, okay, I think I understand the nature of your problem. Okay, here's what you do. You still have the packing materials that your computer came in. And the customer says, yeah. It's like, okay, here's what you do. You take your computer and you repack it into the boxes. You take the boxes back to the store because you're too effing stupid to own a computer. And then the tech support person got fired for that. So, funny story. Errol Willis is here, says, you seem to have missed my comments above on how hiring managers are rude nowadays. Yeah, Errol, sorry. I don't see any other comments from you. Maybe they got lost or somehow. If you don't mind, can you cut and paste them again? And I'll be happy, because I can see this one, but this is the first comment from you that I can see in the feed. So if I'm missing something, try cutting, pasting, and hopefully I'll see those. There is like YouTube filters, but they're supposed to only filter out like offensive stuff. So hopefully nothing you said falls under that category. You might have to clean it up. It might be a bit too authentic. I'm not sure. But yeah, repost and I'll be happy to respond. Joseph said, we deal with it. Emails, phone calls, live chat. Yeah, fun stuff. So, okay, are you currently in a tech support job or you're between jobs and you're looking, obviously, to get hired in a tech support role? I imagine, without knowing anything more, I imagine what would be important to a hiring manager for someone who works in tech support is, first of all, like two things. First of all, understanding the protocol for talking to customers. So being professional, being easy to understand, being somewhat empathetic, right? Signaling or showing a hiring manager that you have that. And you would do that simply by talking to them, right? You come across as very professional. You come across as very easy to talk to, very clear, right? Not like me. I'm all over the place right now, but like, much more deliberate, much easier to talk to. The second thing I imagine a hiring manager that's running a customer service department would care about is if you understood the metrics by which your performance is measured. So things like, how many customers you can help per day, the average length of a call or a ticket or whatever, you're dealing with, any kind of customer satisfaction metrics, things like this. If you showed that you understood exactly how someone in your position, how your performance is measured to your boss, that I think would go very far to a hiring manager. Okay, so if you could get a meeting with the hiring manager or send them a message or something, and indicate like in one sentence or something, 1 or 2 sentences, that you really understood that. Not by saying, I understand this, but by saying something that implies that you understand it. I think that would go a very long way. And if you reached out to organizations that had large tech support operations, I think that that would be one really effective way to sort of get your foot in the door and uncover some great opportunities there. Because if they meet you and you're professional and you're easy to talk to and easy to deal with, and you understand what's important for performance in a tech support environment, that's a win-win. I think people would choose to hire you than even go to the pile of resumes of strangers that you don't know any of these things with, Still nothing in the chat from Errol or Joseph. I'm looking for more details from both you guys if you want me to go any further. Get in the chat. There's 27 people here. 27 people that have nothing better to do on a Friday than do some self-improvement. If you just arrived, get in the chat. Let me know what you're wondering. Let me know what you're struggling with, and I'll be happy to help you. In the meantime, check out some of my courses. Get this course if you are just lost and you don't know what to do to get hired. Check that out. If you are trying to climb the ladder, you're trying to get like a more higher level management job than what you're currently in, check out that. That's the course there. And if you're just looking to learn business, get that. These two are very popular courses. This one is my most recent course. Quite a few people have taken that, but that's probably the most compact of all of the 3 courses. Okay. Errol says, my previous comment was, I went to an interview, and when I met the hiring manager, I greeted them and said, good morning, but they didn't answer or acknowledge the greetings, but started interview. Yeah, that's a real red flag. That's the equivalent of somebody extending a hand for like a handshake and then them not shaking your hand. It's considered extremely rude, right? Now, listen, they're just sort of trying to be kind. Maybe the person was deaf. Maybe the person didn't hear you. Is just tell yourself like, okay, I maybe don't have the full picture, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Very hard to do, but we try and do that, okay? Because if you just sort of keep it real and say, just respond directly to that with some kind of a jab or an insult, then it just goes downhill before it starts. I think you know that. But if your point is that a lot of people are rude today, which I think you said earlier, you are absolutely right. We are getting worse and worse and worse at this, as the years roll by. I'm an old guy, so I mean, it's not that people were great back in the day, because they weren't, but we've gotten worse. It's not good. And I've always marveled at recruiters in general, people that their job is to deal with people all day long. And they're so terrible at it, like as a group. There's some really good ones, but as a group, oh my God, what is wrong with these people? They are terrible. They're rude. And especially when they combine that with like incompetence, you know what I'm saying? Like all at once, right? And I think I imagine part of the reason why they're allowed to be that incompetent sometimes is because nobody's calling them on it. At least none of their contacts external to their organization are calling them on that, because you're trying to be ingratiating. You're going down on your knees for a job, and the last thing you're going to do is sort of call them on any of this stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like a self-perpetuating thing. It's really unfortunate, and it's just beautiful how this works out, so that right when you're between jobs, you're probably at the lowest point in your life, barring the death of a family member or something, and then you have to encounter these people. You know what I mean? It's very tragic, and it can send a lot of people over the edge, and I know it does. Yeah, I can well believe it. Plankton says, my most recent employer went out of business last year. Oh, that's unfortunate. They were based 300 miles away, so I have no local network. Job search is a black hole. I'm using foul language in my day-to-day more than ever. Listen, you are normal, Plankton, okay? That's a normal thing, okay? You're not a bad person. I got some good news for you, okay? Most networking is not based on people that you already know. Now, I know that's counterintuitive. A lot of people are going to hear that and say, what? But it's true. For getting a job, the most effective thing, as far as I'm concerned, that I've lived in my experience, is not just knowing a bunch of people beforehand. Instead, it's about reaching out to people. So if you need a job now and you don't know anyone now in your immediate geographic location, okay, that region where you are, like a city or something, what you do is you discover who around you might have an opportunity for you. That means like the employers that have potential to hire someone like you. Okay, so for example, let's say you're a fully qualified lawyer, right? Let's just say, hypothetically. Now, next door to you, a block away, there's a painting company, okay, that employs 50 people. You're probably not going to want to contact them because a painting company probably won't be hiring a lawyer, right? That's self-evident. But let's pretend that if you were a lawyer and 2 blocks away, there's a company that does contract review for a real estate company, okay? They are a real estate company. They have a contracts department where they revise the fine print and they examine potential liabilities, and then they make sure all their contracts are covering them for all the very latest laws and the very latest legislations in all these different regions, right? Well, they may employ someone with your skills, right? So wouldn't it be nice to know that that company that has potential to hire you is 2 blocks away from where you live, right? So that's kind of the first step. You discover, entities like this that are around you. Now, if you're doing a remote job, that's a whole other thing. It muddies the waters a little bit. But let's pretend, for the sake of argument, you're doing like a physical job where you commute to work every day. Okay, so that'd be the first step, right? Find out around you, say within commuting distance, all the different organizations that have potential to hire someone like you with your skills. Okay, then the next step would be to reach out to those organizations. And once you do that, it just splits off into there's all kinds of things you can do. The simplest thing that I've talked about on my live streams, because it takes about as long as I can do it on a live stream. The more complicated stuff, it takes longer than I can really do on a live stream. But the simplest thing is simply just to send them a message to the individual within the organization, a hiring manager, not a recruiter, not the head of HR, but the head of department or a person higher up who has the power to hire you, okay? And it's a very, very simple message. You say, hey, my name is X, right? It would be really cool if you could say something like, my name is Blanca Rosa Lopez Urquiza, right? And if you pronounce it like that each time, you get bonus points. So you say, hi, my name is that, and I'm a fully qualified lawyer. I specialize in this type of law, and I'm really great at solving this type of problem. If ever you need those skills or you need someone who can do that, please give me a call because I'd love to work for you. You guys are located very near where I live, and I know your company does this, and I think that's very exciting. Have yourself a great day, right? So it's not something you're pestering them for. You're not expecting a reply. It's just if they happen to be looking for someone with those skills, you landed right in their lap. You live nearby. You've got those skills. You know about them, and you're excited to work for them, right? So most people getting this message will not respond because just playing the odds, most people are not looking to hire a lawyer right this second, right? But following statistical probability, a few people are. So it's usually like, 1% to 5%, something in there. So it's great. If you send out 100 messages, then statistically, you'll probably get one response. Somebody saying, yeah, hey, we might have something. I might have something for you. They're not going to tell you, oh yeah, I'm looking to hire someone just like you, but they will want to speak to you. Okay. So that's a great thing. Now, I've done a video with the details of how you go about doing this kind of thing, if you're interested. And there's a link to it in the description box under this live stream. It's called How Successful People Get Jobs. Okay, so check that out. It's networking that's very effective, but you don't have to know a single person to do this. And B, you can do all the hard stuff, like the discovery of employers, the initial reach out and sending the message, all from social networking, all between Google Maps and LinkedIn. You can do all of this. So check that out. If that's something you want to pursue, I recommend that approach. And it would be good if you did that in conjunction with whatever other things you're doing right now in your job search. So if you're responding to job postings, that kind of thing, I'm not telling you to stop. I'm just saying also do this. And, whichever method pays off first, that's what you go with, right? So hopefully that helps. Above the Clouds says, looking to make a lateral move at my current company and have an upcoming interview with the hiring manager. When I tell my current manager that I'm interviewing for it, how do it and stay on good terms? Well, that depends. There isn't like a one-size-fits-all answer for that. Sometimes you will want to just not mention it to your current manager. And I would recommend that if you know that the departments don't talk. Like if your current place and this new place, they're completely separate. They don't have any dealings with each other. They don't talk to each other. I'd recommend that, right? Why potentially paint a target on your back if you don't need to? If you don't end up being selected, what does it matter, right? So why take a risk of a downside if you don't have to, right? On the other hand, if it's likely or possible that your current boss and this new area do communicate, okay, they're somewhat close, they're somewhat interconnected, then probably what the proper thing to do is to mention to your boss that, I may be doing this. Don't say I'm leaving. Don't say I want to leave. You'd say, I heard that there's an opportunity in that department over there, and I was just curious about it. I don't know if I'm going to put in for it, but, what are your thoughts on it? Something like that. And that might be enough, right? So you're not saying I am looking to leave and I am probably going to jump ship. It's just a sort of halfway thing. So if they hear about it later on, they can't say, wait a minute, you didn't tell me you were like fixing to leave. I regard this as some kind of personal betrayal and I'm going to bury you because of it. You did mention it, you did express a certain curiosity, but you didn't say anything definitive. Sometimes that can be the way to go, but it depends on your situation. It depends on the relationship between you and your boss, how understanding your boss might be, and this place you're going to, like what's their relationship to your current situation. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, you continued. Sorry, our 2024 bonus hasn't been paid out yet. Will be next month. Worried he will stiff me if I tell him I'm interviewing in a different position at the company. Yeah, it's a dilemma. It's risk. Listen, you could try the halfway house thing, and almost like a sort of. I don't know. Depending on the details of your current boss and your relationship with them, and how this bonus is paid out, if this person needs prompting to pay it out or it's above their control, you could maybe try this technique and then sort of segue into are we, I was wondering, are we getting the bonuses yet? Is there any news on that front? Something like that, right? The reason you're saying that was to segue, as far as they're concerned, it was to segue into the bonus conversation, right? So there's a way of maybe handling it where you're not painting a target on your back. You're not signaling, oh, I'm a defector and I'm not loyal to you and all this kind of stuff. I have to watch my language, watch my effing language. I didn't want to say kind of crap. That would be unprofessional. Yeah, I think it was in the railroad. Everybody would insert a couple of F-bombs into every sentence they said, and that was at a management meeting. Yeah, so it might be something a little bit tactful like that you need to do. And then it sort of covers you. The boss can't come back and say, you never told me you were thinking of leaving. But yet you kind of sort of signaled it, and you also sort of followed up with the bonus thing. So maybe it's a bit more clear. But, I can't tell you what option to go for. I don't know what your situation is. You have to decide that. But it may be possible to do both using some kind of clever, tactful communication like this. Anna S. says, I'm currently looking for another job. The way things are today, it's hard. Just so you know, it's always been like this. It's not just the way things are today. It's the way they've been every year, certainly for the last 40 years. The way things are today, it's hard to have references checked because of issues in the company that I work for. How can I get around that? HR won't respond. I wouldn't worry too much about that, first of all, okay? Having your references for your company is not essential. In fact, most people don't provide references that they check for your existing current job, okay? Because if you are currently employed and you're leaving this job to go take a new job, right? The last thing you're going to be doing is telling your current boss, oh, I'd like to use you for a reference because I'm wanting to leave this job, right? You don't want to signal in any way that you're leaving before you leave, right? Hopefully everybody knows that, because the danger is they don't want employees to leave. They want to be in control of terminating employees. That way they can get all their ducks in a row with a replacement and manage the process so the disruption is minimal for them, right? They don't like it when employees just suddenly leave, right? The problem is that if you need to provide references for jobs you're looking at, like you might be considered for, and you're giving out the reference to your boss, right? That kind of tips them off that you're looking to leave, right? The recruiter calls them and says, I'd like a reference for Jessica, and, yeah, she's applied for this other job. And, oh, you're her current employer. What do you think about her leaving? Right? So most people actually don't give references for their current company. If you're forced to, the next best choice is to give a coworker or someone like not your boss, but a coworker, someone that's kind of your friend if you have such a thing at that company, if they're not all just a pack of bastards. Maybe there's one person that you kind of trust. They won't blab to the boss that you're leaving. That might be the best thing you can do. So at least they can verify that you work there and that someone can give you a good character reference by saying, I've worked with that person for several years and they're really great. You could try it that way. Okay. Don't feel like you're under any obligation to provide a reference for your current employer. Most jobs, they don't require that because candidates insist upon it. it's a deal breaker. If you're going to call my boss and tell him that you're leaving, him or her, then I can't apply for this. Then we have to end this right here. I'm not going to jeopardize what I already have on the chance that you guys might hire me. Hopefully that helps. Above the clouds, he will be notified when I interview with the hiring manager. I already interview with the recruiter. Okay. Then it's better to come clean and say, and what I could do, if it were me, what I would do is I would say, like, listen, just so you're aware, I'm going to be interviewing for this. And, I don't know about it. I did it on the off chance. I'm just a little bit curious about what it would involve. Even if they picked me, I'm not sure if I would take it. But just so you know, that's going to be coming down the pipe, and that's what's going on there. If you have no choice, try and minimize its impact, right? Because at least for me, if I was in that situation, I would prioritize protecting my current situation over maximizing my chances of getting the new situation. Okay, so even if you were to say something like, I'm not that committed to it, I was just curious, even if they offer it to me, I'm not sure if I would take it. Yeah, if that gets back to the new people, it could hurt your chances a bit. But as I said, my priority would be protecting my current situation. I want to make sure that I don't end up with nothing after this, So that's how I would handle it personally. But it's gonna depend on the details, and only you know all the details and what your goals are and your situation and all that kind of stuff. So you have to decide what's right for you. Don't just take my advice or anyone's advice blindly. You have the final decision on all of this, obviously. Anna S., HR doesn't know that I'm looking for another job. I know background checks can verify my job there. How can I explain that to the interviewer? Listen, okay. Full disclosure, I don't understand all the details of your situation and how it works between these two companies. These are two different companies. But it really sounds like you feel absolutely trapped, because if you were to look for another job, yes, they run background checks on you. Normally how that works in a lot of countries, depending on where you are in the world, is that you can do background checks without notifying your current employer that, tipping them off that you're looking to leave. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure what type of background checks that they're doing that you're talking about here, about like if you were to do those background checks, it tips off the employer that you do that you've just done a background check and that you could be fixing to leave. Usually with like that kind of stuff, there's sort of more than one level. There's sort of like a soft check and then there's a hard check, right? Hard check tips off the person because it affects things. Soft check is they sort of like look you up. Like, for example, with the government, like the government knows where you work, at least it should, or officially, because you pay taxes, right? They need to know where you're working and how much you make in order to know how much tax you owe, right? So the government usually knows your full employment history. Now, some background checks, they can check up on that sometimes, but it's like a soft check. It's like they just look up what's in a database. They don't contact the companies, and do that kind of activity. So learn more about the background checks. What checks do they need to do? If they're soft checks or hard checks, how they're doing it, what entities are involved, and then you can make a more informed decision about, like, should I do this or that? Okay, because you'll know specifically what that entails. But this idea that, like, anytime someone wants to verify anything, your current employer will be tipped off. I have a bit of a problem with that. It shouldn't work that way. You should be able to do it in such a way that, that's not the case, or else no one would be able to leave a job without the fear of immediately being fired, the moment they start looking. Tech programmer, do background checks verify dates employed? They can. It depends what country you're in, what type of check they're doing, and like the details, you know? I am not an expert on background checks. I mean, I've done those with HR employees, like where they know all the details and I just sort of request information from them and work with them. But I understand you can find that stuff out pretty quick. Try ChatGPT, you know? You need to specify what country and possibly what region, because, you know, it does vary, like how this stuff works. It isn't always the same wherever you are in the world. Above the Clouds says, thanks again. You're welcome, Above the Clouds. I like your name. I like your name. It's very blissful, shall we say. It reminds me of rainbows, unicorns, snowflakes, you know, right? And cocaine. Anna S. says, I recently interviewed at my company for a position in another department. It was strange because of how the interview went down. I felt really weird as you explained, but I did get a feedback. I was wondering if it will be placed it to my file. Okay, so let me read that again. I recently interviewed at my company for a position. It was strange. Yeah, if it's all internal in the HR department, they probably will keep track of, you know, if you applied for an internal position and what happened, right? If it's all internal to a company, they'll probably keep all that stuff. Yes. But listen, like, in this matter, okay, it might be an idea to go talk to the HR department. Now, I don't know if you said that earlier, that you tried to contact HR and they didn't respond or something. I vaguely remember something. Because you see, if you're a current employer of that, or if you're a current employee of that organization, okay, you're in a job and you're working fine, right? You're not about to be fired or anything weird like that. You're an employee in good standing, okay? And you're working in Department A, right? But you've applied for a position over in Department B, right? Now, in that situation, you really shouldn't have anything to hide from the HR department in your own company, because, you know, you can say, like, look, I would like to do that job, or at least I'm curious about it. If it's a good fit for me, I would like to go and interview for it, right? Now, it serves their purpose, possibly, if you apply for it and were to get it, you know, like they fill a position with the right person. If the manager of Department B thinks you're the best candidate, then this is good for them, right? So they shouldn't be working against you. And if your manager in Department A, for some reason, has a problem with you for leaving and transferring to another department, and you fear that they're going to be, vengeful and they're going to retaliate against you or something, HR should, in theory, be able to help you with that, like to prevent that, right? You know, and you can even voice your concern and say, look, I haven't brought this up with my manager in Department A, but I'm a bit concerned that they might take it personally, and I don't want to jeopardize my position there. But at the same time, I am curious to check this out. How would you recommend that I proceed? There are some times when you don't want to go and consult the HR department of your current employer because they are not on your side. They will side with the company against you, okay? But in this situation, if I understand it correctly, it seems like they would be your ally in this. If you're the right fit for working in Department B, they would want you to make that change, and they would not want your manager to retaliate against you in any way, you know? And they would want to also transition in a way that minimizes the disruption with Department A, you know? So if I've got this correct, you might want to go and just talk to HR, like go and, I don't know if they're physically located near you. Like you can go and walk into the HR department and just say, I'd very much like to talk to somebody about this position, or, I have some questions with regard to making an internal transfer, and they would hopefully be able to help you with that, because you're working with the company on this. You're not working against the company. Plankton says, thanks for the detailed response. I totally misunderstood networking, and now it is clear. The proactive nature of it sounds great to me. Thanks again for helping all of us get through this craziness. Yeah, networking is anytime people talk to people. That's all it is. And it can take a wide variety of forms. Okay? Like there's many, many, many things you can do. Building on existing relationships, if you know a lot of people, yes, that's definitely one thing you can do. But in my experience, it's less useful than you would think, because, like I said earlier, how many people are hiring at any moment in their department for someone with your skills? It won't be like 50% of the time they're hiring. It's something like 1% of the time, 5% of the time, right? So therefore, to get like 5, let's say it was 1% of the time, and you wanted 5 leads, that means you'd have to reach out to 500 people, right? Like statistically, all things being equal. Now, do you know 500 people that you have a good relationship with? Most people don't, right? So if you need a job now, like you don't have the luxury of, getting employed sometime in the next 10 years, but you need something now, right? You probably don't know 500 people that all know you and they think highly of you, right? So it requires this kind of activity anyway, right? Even if you knew like 100 people that, they all know you by name, and they all, you've hung out with them, and you've got a history, and you know what I mean? And you've kept in touch to 100 people, knowing 100 people might not be enough, right? To get a job now, right? For the specific thing that you do. So that's why this kind of activity happens a lot more than you think. It's a lot more reaching out to people you don't know, right? The other kind of thing that contributes to this is that, at least in my experience, generally speaking, if you do the thing where you ask someone that you do know to put in a good word for you with someone you don't know, people tend not to do that. They tend not to act as your agent and like do your work for you, right? They're not going to go out and advocate for you and, really try and persuade people, you need to give this person a job. It's hard enough to get them to sort of mention it, right? Let alone advocate for you or go out and evangelize like how great you are. So at the end of the day, you still have to do this kind of activity where you're advocating for yourself and you're reaching out to people you don't know. You know what I mean? Now, you might be able to capitalize on the fact that you don't know each other, but you both have a contact in common, right? Which would be likely if it's within a certain industry, right? So you might not know me, but let's say I'm an employee, I work in the department under this manager at this company, and the other person might say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of them. I know at that company, that manager. I know that she's been there for a long time," and or something like that. It's like, okay, so now you're kind of legitimate to me. I know that you're the real deal. You work for X that I've heard of, right? So sometimes you get that, but a lot of times you don't. It's just like you're a stranger, but you're opening opportunities because you're not talking about how qualified you are. You're demonstrating your qualities, starting with the initiative to do something like this in the first place. Oh, man, I'm still under the weather. Somebody asked me if I was drinking, was it beer or wine or some kind of alcohol? No, I'm not. This is ginger ale. Ginger ale. and it's in a acrylic cup, right? A lot of times you can tell, I'm not a big expert on booze, but you can tell like what you're drinking based on the cup you're drinking it out of, like a brandy glass or something, you can tell what it is. Or like a Manhattan, right? The little triangular thing, right? Of course, you need to have a cigarette with a cigarette holder and a beret and a turtleneck in order to do that. So it just wouldn't work. Anna S says, okay, thank you. Okay, good. There are 28 people. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining the chat. We've reached the end of the chat, so get in the chat. Let me know what questions you might have about hiring, careers, etc., etc. And if you have any questions about etiquette and protocol, that's why I chose the title for this stream today. Watch your effing language. In the meantime, if you're just joining us, check out some of my courses. If you're looking to learn how to get hired, various techniques. If you're wanting to learn about networking, get this course. This is all my advice to do with how to get a traditional type job or the traditional method where you look at job postings and you apply to them with job applications, all that kind of thing. But also it talks about, all the methods that involve networking, including kind of what I was just talking about a moment ago, reaching out to employers around you. Great for introverts. That's why I did all my courses, really. I'm a technical introvert, and some of the stuff is not obvious to introverts. Breaking out of that sort of mentality, or at least breaking out from the lack of respect towards certain things, will open doors to you. When I was an introvert, I thought that networking was all BS. I thought it was just, people flapping their gums and being ingratiating and being slimy. Some people, I get comments on my channel, they leave comments on my channel whenever I talk about networking, saying that it's all some kind of conspiracy, that it's nepotism, it's favoritism, it's not. I mean, yes, it can be if you're a jackass and you engage in unethical things, yes. But it is far from that. I've had other comments saying, isn't it what was the word they used? The term. Not a free society, equal opportunity. I think this is this an American expression, equal opportunity? It's like, shouldn't it be equal opportunity? It's like, yeah, it is. It is. You have the same opportunities that these people have who are reaching out to others, and you are not availing yourself of that opportunity. So it is equal opportunity. They're getting hired and you're not. But part of the problem is, first of all, you're not aware that this opportunity even exists. That's the first problem. Secondly, you might be aware of it, but you're sort of ideologically opposed to it because you think it's this big, negative, corrupt kind of thing, when it isn't. It's just people talking to other people. If someone's looking to hire and you contact them and say, hey, I got some skills. If you're looking for those skills, I'd love to work for you. Let me know if you are. And they call you, they say, hey, yeah, we might have something. Why don't you come down? Let's talk. Now, is that unethical? Is that corrupt? Of course not. You can talk to whoever you want. They can tell you to go get lost if they want, right? And some people will. But the vast majority of people will just not respond. And a minority will welcome you with open arms. They say, yeah, I might have something. Come on down. And that's why you do it. It's just that simple. Matthew says, good evening. When I read that, I remember Vincent Price. Anybody remember Vincent Price? That really old guy that did all the monster movies and stuff? Good evening, my friends. Matthew says, people from outside, can they apply? To what? Was this in reference to the networking thing? Absolutely. Are you talking about, was it Plankton that was talking about who was talking about the internal thing, like moving internally from one department to another? Was that Anna? I can't remember. But yeah, let me know what you're referring to, Matthew, and I will see if I can help you out. I'm going to adjust my camera. It's getting a little too bright. Just bear with me for 1 second. Here we go. Maybe something like that. And of course, I've got to do this one manually because I'm using only the best, latest technology here too. I take pride in my ability to use the absolute latest computer technology to do what I do. I'm really, it's funny because I'm traditionally a tech guy. I owned a software company like 25 years ago or whatever, a small software company, and I was in IT. But it was a completely different ballgame than what it is now. And since then, I think I've been fulfilling the stereotype of like an old guy who's not good with technology. I've been gradually sort of slipping into that, which really sucks. I kind of hate myself for it, but I'm fine with it because computers used to be very, very exciting up to a point, and then it just got really boring. This IT technology got really boring. I think ChatGPT and AI has been the only semi-interesting thing to have occurred in like the last certainly 15 years, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, get in the chat. I don't have anything to talk about unless you guys give me questions or comments. So if you don't like my endless blathering about everything and nothing all at once, give me some stuff to go on. Give me a question to answer. Next week, I will not be doing the weekly collaboration that I do on Mondays. I've been doing a series called Career Expert Roundtable, where I talk to other YouTubers that also give advice on how to get jobs and stuff like that. And we've been doing it for like 16 weeks straight, and I'm taking 1 week off, and then I've got at least one more coming back on, I think, the Monday after, February 17th. So check that out if you want to ask a question to me and a recruiter or recruiters, and you can get different perspectives answering the same question. So if that's interesting to you, check out that series that I have. I've been doing it most recently with a YouTuber called Abby, who's from the channel Life-Work Balance. Not work-life balance, life-work balance. She's a former recruiter, and she also has a background in like psychology and stuff like that, but she does career coaching type stuff. She offers those services. So if you're looking for like an actual career coach to work with you, check out her channel and some of the stuff that she has there. She's been saying that, a lot of people, they'll get her just to do one interview. Just with one interview, they can sort of assess you with an objective kind of view, and they can usually fix a lot of problems just with that. That's what she has explained. So that's another option for you. I recommend that people do mock interviews, just friend and family member. It's cheap because you don't have to pay them, but you can do many of them, and that's the advantage. But if you're looking for that sort of professional eye, check out Life-Work Balance. There's a link to it from my channel from those live streams I do on Monday. Okay, so Matthew says, people from outside, can they apply? Can people from Africa to get a job in Canada? Yes, you can, but listen, I'm not an expert on that. I know that there's some extra hoops you got to jump through, with the immigration thing and all that. So I know that some people specialize in that kind of thing, like the sort of immigrating or emigrating for work and, setting up work visas and all that. There are people that specialize in that. So they would be able to help you, and they would be able to help you specifically for like what your host country and your home country. So like where you are and where you're going to, right? So check out those. See if you can find someone who can help you that does that specifically. That's where I would get information on like how to do that stuff. Amazed is back. Amazed says, what do you think an interview expecting you to turn your camera on while theirs is off during a virtual interview? I recently had this experience and decided to off my camera in return. Okay, so listen, here's how it works. Number one, first of all, you are absolutely correct that it is unwelcoming and it could even be considered rude to do that. So you're absolutely justified in being sort of offended on some level. Okay? There's nothing weird or unreasonable about how you're reacting. Okay? Second, I do understand why sometimes they turn off their cameras. It's because in some cases they do a lot of video conferencing, a lot of virtual interviews, and you just don't feel like being on camera all day long. You know what I mean? Especially to strangers, right? So after a while they turn it off because they can, right? But number three, you are hurting yourself by letting your ego say, oh yeah, well, what do you think of this? Click, right? That's hurting you. So I understand that it makes you feel like you're getting some of your own back, and you might feel a bit better about yourself, but at the same time, it's hurting your chances of being selected as the candidate by doing that. So in my opinion, you should resist doing that. You should have your camera on, even though theirs is off. Okay? That will help sell you more effectively. And also, you see, if you get offended by something they're doing and then respond to that, that's a red flag for them that they don't want to work with you. Because if you got offended in the job interview, then if they hire you, you'll probably get even more offended on the job, right? You're the type of person that gets offended by little things, right? That's the impression they're getting of you. So for that reason, I recommend what I just said. Keep your camera on, even though I'll be the first to admit it is unwelcoming and it's rude. And they should be more professional about it, but they're not. You gotta be a little bit kind and say, like, look, I don't know the full story. Maybe they've had a really bad day. Maybe something's going on. I choose to interpret it that way, give them the benefit of the doubt. But all things being equal, yeah, it's rude and it's unprofessional. But you gotta lump it, because if you are offended in a job interview, that's pretty much like an instant no, right? Like it's not going to work out, right? Sometimes they will ignore that. They won't interpret your actions that way, but sometimes they will. And that's where you lose. Okay. So why lose over something this stupid? If you had turned your camera on, maybe there was a really great job at the other end of it, so do what's right for you and try and button your lip and, just tell your ego to shut the hell up for like 1 minute and lump it, and you have better odds of something good coming your way. How do you say that? Gam. Lovuyo. Or is it Lovulo? I'm sure that's how you spell it. Lovulo of the Boston Lovulos, that kind of thing. It says, hi, Bill. What is your perspective on engineering freelancing? In terms of career growth and professional credibility, does freelance experience hold the same value as conventional full-time employment? Great question, Lovulo. I don't know, but there's a really easy way to find out. Here's what you do. This is the process to find out anything that goes on in the real world with people, okay? With careers and employment. Get on LinkedIn, okay? And you need to do unrestricted people searches. So either you get a paid account, or if they still offer it, there's usually like that free month offer from LinkedIn. So you sign up for the free trial of like a premium account. So it costs you nothing. And then you can use it. And then at the end of the month, if you were to cancel before the end of the month or something, you won't have to pay anything, right? So you could do this for free. But get the premium account or whatever you need to get so you can do unrestricted people searches that used to come with the premium accounts. Then do a search for this, for freelance engineering, okay? Or do a search for, say, engineering. Now, you're going to limit it to your geographic region, so your town or your city, okay? And you're going to do a people search so that the results are people, they're individuals. So it's searching people's account, like their profile, right? So if you're looking for, like, I don't know, engineering or civil engineering, whatever type of engineering, right? Or maybe you even put in words like freelance or contract or, and like terms like that, see what comes up. Now, if you do that search and like 500 people come up that are in your hometown, you have to forgive me, my nose is completely blocked. 500 people come up in the search results as people in your hometown that have the term freelance engineering or contract engineering or something like that, and it's in their profile and it's their current position, right? And if you look at their profile, it looks like it's legit. Their previous job was, say, 10 years ago, and since then they've been working at freelance engineering or something. That tends to suggest that it's paying off for them. And if there's a lot of them, that tends to suggest that it's happening a lot, right? If, on the other hand, you don't find anyone doing this, that tends to suggest that it's not really that big of a thing, and that there might be a reason why people are staying away from it. Okay? So you can get a sort of feel of what's happening out there by doing these kind of searches, right? So that's how you find, for you in your hometown, for the specific type of engineering that you do, or what industry it's in, or what level it's at, you can get an idea of what's happening. And then the added bonus is that if you do find those people doing this, you can see their profile. So their profile is how they got there. What prerequisites did they have to do that successfully? If it looks like they all had long careers in an industry before they jumped out to do freelance engineering, that tells you that might be a prerequisite. If, on the other hand, you see them coming right out of school and then doing this, that suggests that kind of experience might not be a prerequisite. So that's the first thing you can do, and you can do that today and get like a pretty clear answer on that. If you want to go deeper, the next step is to do informational interviews, where some of these people that you're finding, that's where you start sending them messages and you say, I'd very much like to get your expert opinion on freelance engineering in this industry. Would you be able to spare me 30 minutes of your time? And you go down and meet them. They say, yeah, come on down. Here's a time that's convenient, Thursday at 2, meet me here. You go down and you just ask them, so like, how did you get into freelance engineering? Like, does it, what's the advantages? What's the disadvantage? Stuff like that. And you get to learn about it from the people that are doing it. And then you'll probably have all the information you need to decide if that's really something that you want to pursue now, or if it might be if you still want to do it, it might be a longer term goal that you have in the future. You'll be able to get that information, everything you need to act on, hopefully. As well as, if you did that, you'd have some contacts in that business. So that's how I'd recommend you proceed with that. And this goes for like any question you might have about what people are doing out there and how is it done. This is how you find out. It's like a 2-stage thing. First is doing the LinkedIn search. And if that's not enough in itself, it should be for most things, but if it's not enough, then you do informational interviews and go sit down with some of these people and pick their brain. People love talking about themselves. They'll be happy to tell you what they did and why and what their opinions are about different things. People love that if you present it and request it, in a proper way. Amaze says, sorry for the way I structured the question. Glad you understood the question, though. Well, sometimes you can ask for clarification, but sometimes they won't respond, right? Because they don't have to, right? This is the privilege of a lot of recruiters. People are on their knees begging for a job, so they don't have to treat you with that much respect and respond to you. So just prepare for both. It's just what you got to do. This is an extension of the sales process. You're selling yourself. And people that work in sales, like I'm not a salesperson. I've had some involvement in sales, but I'm not a salesperson. I'm a technical introvert. I'm an operations person. And the biggest shift I had to do was learn to respect the sales process, which involves doing actions and exerting effort that may not have a direct payoff. That's the biggest stumbling block for a lot of technical people. When you work in operations, like a lot of technical people do, you're used to your actions being done for a purpose that will have a specific payoff. And if you don't get a specific payoff like you're expecting, you feel angry. You feel like, I wasted my time doing this. But salespeople will tell you, like, look, the way it works is you sort of put your effort out into the ether. Like you pursue all these leads, and a lot of them won't pay off. It'll be wasted time if you look at it in that sort of narrow way. But if 5% of people respond or 5% of people buy what you're selling, but yet you've expended effort contacting 100 people, 95 didn't pan out, but you got the 5 that did, and that accomplishes your goal, right? So, you know what I mean? People in the operations side of things, technical people, they have a hard time with that. They think that everything they do should have like a definitive, specific payoff. And if it doesn't, they consider it a waste or ineffective. And that's not true. You can have an indirect payoff. Excuse me. That's how people in the world of finance, like investing, that's how they operate, by the way. It's all statistical probability. You might have different stocks or bonds or, whatever investments, private equity, whatever you invest in. And sometimes it goes up and sometimes it goes down, and you might be upset that, this particular investment has not been paying off lately. I've been losing money on it. But the idea is that that's not how you think. You think of like all of them as a portfolio. And on average, they all went up. Even though some individuals went down, the whole thing, the net effect was that it went up, right? So as a group, they went up. It's not possible to just pick the winners and not the losers because it's statistically random, It's only over the long term that you see they're going like this, right? But it's over the long term that you see them going like upwards. I can't really do it with my hand. You like that? Isn't that what they do in liberal arts, that kind of thing, that kind of motion? I'm not used to making that kind of gesture with my hand. I think they also do this too, don't they? Like you can't see what I'm doing with my hands. It's kind of the bird flying, right? I don't do that gesture nearly as often as I should. I should have done that more when I was a CEO, in front of my employees. It's called leadership. Okay. Lovulo, my good friend here, says, thank you, Bill. Awesome advice. Well, thank you. Thank you for saying so. Glad it was helpful. So Amazed and Tech Programmer are having a little conversation, which is fun. Get in the chat. Let me know what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with. In the meantime, check out my courses. If you're lost, you don't know what to do to get hired, all my advice for getting hired is right there in that course, including all the networking kind of stuff, how to reach out to employers, what you say, all that kind of stuff with templates. That's all there too. If you want to learn business, if you want to impress your employer, you want to work in management or move up into management, that's the best way to learn business. That's all my advice. I have an MBA myself. This course is basically, it teaches you everything in an MBA program. You can either skim it and get a sort of very cursory, quick overview, or you can go in depth, in which it will take some time, but it's a self-study kind of thing. You get the textbooks, the same textbooks they use in places like Harvard Business School in their MBA program. You're getting your information from the same source. And I have videos that guide you through it all. Okay, I give you my take on it. I talk about what areas are a little more useful or a little less useful. And there are no tests, no evaluations, nothing like that. So you can just blast right through it on your own schedule and to the depth in which you are interested. So that's the advantage. Check that out. Very popular course. And my most recent course is for people that are looking to climb the ladder a bit. If you're looking to get into management or upper management or executive management, you have to tack on more advanced communication skills than certainly most technical people have. And that's where this course comes in. I put all my learning, all my tips, all my lessons for that stuff into that course. It's the most compact of the 3 courses that I have, the most focused and, sort of probably the quickest one to do. But that's about above average communication skills. It's called Write Like a Professional, but it's mainly about what to say, not purely about like writing. It's just more about what to say and how to respond in different situations. So check that out if you're interested. All 3 of these are linked below in the description box of this live stream if you are interested. And a lot of people are. I've been selling quite a few of those lately, so a lot of people are getting some benefit. Tech Programmer and Amazed are still going. Yeah. So I have nothing planned to say, so give me your questions, give me your comments, and I will do my best to help you out. Yeah, interesting live stream. Let's go back just for a moment, okay? I started out the live stream by doing this. We were talking about etiquette and protocol. Now, that was originally the idea I had for this particular episode. It's very important to learn the protocol for job interviews or for any kind of thing that I've been talking about so far today. Things like informational interviews, things like if you're reaching out to people that can help you, okay? So for example, if I said, say, what is the protocol for a job interview that candidates should get right, including what you say, phrases to say in different situations, something like that, okay? And I would encourage everyone to do this kind of learning on your own. Like, you might have watched videos of mine or other people about how to answer job interview questions, but there's also this kind of stuff, like how you behave. When you go into a job interview, what's expected of you? Do you greet people? What do you say specifically? If there's 3 people you're interviewing with, how do you address all 3 of them? What do you say? This kind of thing. So, this is a great sort of sanity check for people that are getting into this for the first time. Like when should you arrive? All this kind of stuff, First impression, stand up, smile. Do you guys smile? I know a lot of people do, but not everyone does. All you people in operations, right? Work on that. You probably, I'm just playing the odds here, but you probably could use more of that, right? And I don't mean like grin like some kind of laughing idiot where you're showing your teeth and doing that. I'm talking about looking like what I'm trying to do now, which is just look very pleasant and approachable. That alone will improve your charisma tremendously. Now, if you already know this, here's another question. When they start asking you questions and it's getting serious and you're stumbling, for an answer and all this, are you still smiling? Are you still looking like this? Or are you you're looking worried and, kind of a bit, upset, right? Things like that. You might not think that this matters, but it does a lot. They give you examples here. Good morning. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me today. Very like these are kind of very basic, but they're not bad. Okay, it's giving you examples for the question. If you don't know the answer, that's an interesting question. I haven't encountered that specific situation, but here's how I would approach it. Things like this. Very useful. Okay. There's all kinds of questions you could ask. Closing the interview. So this is kind of what to say. You know, I don't know if you can refine it. I'm going to do this one step further before I come away from this to say, I'm thinking more about specific phrases to use in social situations rather than answering interview questions. For example, if the interviewer, instead of asking a question to me, makes a statement about my qualifications, how or what would be a good response? Something like that. You know, so like things like this. Let's see what it says. Okay. So, for example, the interview compliments your qualifications, what to say. Thank you. I've really enjoyed managing projects. I appreciate that. That means a lot. You know, a lot of people are shy and they just don't know what to say and they go, like that, you know. You know what I mean? Like, what do you say? More to the point, like, it's more of the negative when they say, like, you really don't seem qualified for this, or something like that. I'm sure that people would probably benefit from knowing a few of those, right? Problem-solving mindset. One of our challenges has been improving this. Okay, so like agreeing with them. When does it get to the negative stuff? When they talk about the weather. Nice weather we're having for this. Nice weather we're having for this time of year, don't you think? You know, yeah, that's really not very good small talk. Okay. Negative. Okay, here, let's try this again. More negative situations. So refine with more negative situations. Okay, how to gracefully handle negative or challenging social situations. This, I think, is where some more of the actual learning is. Okay, so here, if you're in a job interview and the interviewer says something like this to you, I see you don't have direct experience in this area. That could be a challenge, right? Now, I don't know if you guys were present for some of my earlier live streams. I think earlier this week or last week, we were talking about this. I was saying what you want to do when they say stuff like this is you respond by agreeing with them, because you come across like a genius when you do that. And, you know, that's a fair point, you know, blah, blah, blah. I completely understand. That's true. You know, I would say something like, absolutely, you know, you actually make a very good point. And then you proceed to kind of answer and show them why you in fact have the thing that they're talking about. So things like this. Do this kind of research on your own. ChatGPT and other chatbots are great tools for this. You could learn a hell of a lot. And this is the kind of stuff that you practice in a mock interview. Okay? If you're getting a friend or family member to help you with this, get them to, like, you know, really put you through the ringer, you know? And it's great rehearsal for when this stuff actually happens in a job interview. You'll know exactly how to handle it because you've rehearsed it before, and you won't panic, and you'll know exactly the phrase to start off saying, you know, and you'll really be able to crush these things. So, you know, I see you're only at this company for a year. Why did you leave so soon? You know, things like that, right? So use these to kind of jog your mind and teach you the etiquette and the protocol of how you behave in these type of interactions. Very, very useful tool there for a lot of people. If you're not doing anything, say on Monday, like if you don't have any interviews to go to, or, you know, or whatever, you have some time, spend maybe an hour or two in the day just doing this and getting those like tips for how to behave and what to say in different situations, and then work that into your rehearsals for job interviews. And I guarantee when you go down to your interview, you'll knock it out of the park. NC Worker says, how to segue into tech with transferable skills and without a degree, but has years of management and leadership. Can you do tech if you only have management and leadership? Like you're wanting to write code, but you've just been a manager? I mean, okay, in order for this to work, obviously you'd have to have the technical skills, right? So I'm going to assume that you have the technical skills, right? Now, my next question is, were you a manager or leader in a tech environment? Were you like the manager of the department of developers, or like you were a project manager or something like that? And you had like 5 developers under you or something. Or are you a manager or a leader from a different industry or a different department, like you were in the sales department or something, and you're wanting to transition into like operations? If you could give me some, you say here, yes, like project management. Okay. Okay, so if you have the technical skills, now my next question is that not taking a step down? So if you were a project manager in a tech environment, but now you're wanting to segue into tech, right? Does that mean you're wanting to go down a notch to be like, say, a developer or systems admin or something like that? If you could clarify that, that would be a help, so I know what we're talking about. And then I'll be happy to go from there. Because it depends. I mean, it depends what your situation is. And I mean, I was a project manager for a few years, and at least in my experience, it was mainly like, operations. It wasn't really management that much in the sense of you're not managing people, you're not managing money, you know what I mean? You're not like making deals or doing a lot of persuasion, that kind of stuff. But that was only my experience. Some people, they're project managers, but they can get up and they can do presentations and persuade people to go with their project or their proposal, that kind of thing. So it depends on what your skills are and what they're looking for, because management can unfortunately mean quite a variety of different roles and skills depending on, the specifics. You can definitely, assuming you have all the technical skills, there's absolutely no reason why you can't transfer from management into more of an operational role, if that's what you're doing. But if you're taking a step down, if that is what you're trying to do, that's kind of going to be interpreted as a red flag, all things being equal. You'd have to really work hard to have like a good justification for that. Because you run into the whole like overqualified crap, when you do that. They don't want a manager working as a worker because they figure that worker is now overqualified, meaning that you're not serious about that job. You're not going to stay in it. As soon as a management position opens up somewhere, you're out of here. That's what they're assuming, whether it's true or not, because they're just looking at stereotypes. And unfortunately, they paint you with that brush when you're in that situation. NC Worker says, no, it's more like in sales in tech. Okay, so I was managing people, doing presentations, as well as operations management. Okay, so that's what you were doing. But what is it you're going to? Are you being purely like a developer? Or something like that, like pure operations? That's what you're doing? Listen, you have the skills. That's not really hard to show, especially if you were to sit down with a hiring manager where you could talk shop, right? You could talk like coding, you could talk developing, and, you could show that you know your stuff. Like that would not be the hard part. The hard part, as I see it, as I'm sort of guessing what your situation is, would be the whole like overqualified thing, And there's a couple of ways around that. One, the most obvious brute force way is to try and not disclose the true nature of your previous job, right? Where you emphasize the fact that you were a glorified developer or something in your previous role, and that's what you ended up doing, and downplay all the sales and, presentation and, people management side of it. I'm going into tech sales, being an accounting, saying, okay, so is it a step down? That's what I'm wondering. Is it regarded as a step down? Because that's the biggest concern I have. That's what I think is going to be your biggest hurdle if that's the situation. You know, now if it's tech sales, listen, it varies whether you're working at like a multinational corporation or you're working at like, a very small company. But usually sales is based on results. And if not results, it's certainly based on personality, right? So your soft skills in interviews are going to be very important, even more important than they would be in an interview for like an operations type position. Okay. Okay. And NC worker. Listen, what would be helpful is don't say it. If you could say what you're referring to, then I understand better. Because you say, I don't think it is, but I don't know what you're referring to. I think that was I'm guessing that was the developer role, right? It's not a developer role. It's a sales engineer role. Listen, bottom line is, I think you certainly could do it. You'd be a definite candidate. If what you were dealing with before, if the subject matter, like the products, were the same, you're going from a sort of project manager role developing a product into a sales engineer role selling that product, then yeah, I think you definitely would be able to do that. There's no question. You'd certainly be a candidate, right? The fact that you had done presentations and people management, and you said your old job was like sales in tech, then definitely, and you say, I don't think it's a step down. Okay, well, then, yeah, it seems like a very, very obvious kind of thing that you'd be qualified for. But if it's a sales engineer role, I think that all things being equal, you can expect that in the interview, just on a soft skills level, why is my camera so bright? I'm just going to turn that down. On a soft skills level, they will expect you to be very persuasive and very effective, far more than they would have been for, say, a project manager role. Okay? That's the point I was trying to make before. Like, it's less about looking at your resume, and it's more about assessing your soft skills in the interview, right? For sales positions, that's what I've done. It's like, you look at, like, the number one thing is your track record. They'll look at what your track record is. Do you have a track record in sales? Have you ever engaged in the sales process? And if so, how did it go? What were your results? I mean, that's the number one thing. Then number two would be, in the interview, are you able to like, the obvious thing is, are you able to sell me on you? Show me you understand the sales process. Show me you understand the fact that, like, it's all about trying to figure out who I am so that you can tailor what you say to sell this thing to me, right? That's the sales process. So how effective are you at that? Like, I think that would be a huge part of it, all things being equal. That would be more important than technically what you did, in your past. Obviously, if you're selling a product, familiarity with the product is definitely a big thing. But if you help develop the project or the product, then I don't think there's any fear that you wouldn't have the technical chops, to talk about the product and explain what it can do and all that kind of stuff. Is it an outside sales position or an inside sales position? That'll be the other thing. If it's inside sales, your personality and that kind of stuff matters less. If it's an outside sales thing, that's where not only you'd have to have the right personality and the soft skills to be very effective at that, but that's where it might require like lifestyle preferences. Like, if you're always on the road or you're always on customer sites or whatever you're doing, not everyone does that. Do you have a history of having jobs where you're on the road? You're traveling a lot, if that's what's required. That would be another thing to assess your fit for that kind of role. So I'm not sure what the answer to all this stuff is, but like that's the stuff that they would be looking for depending on what situation it is. So, yeah, just, what I like, listen, if I don't know what your history is, if you know much about, like, have you been in that type of role before? Have you been a sales engineer? Hang out with some sales engineers, go and do informational interviews with sales engineers if you don't know any, or if you're currently employed, and you're inside a company, go to the sales department, hang out with the sales engineers, see what they do. Like ask if it's okay if they could sort of like give you a tour of like, their job and what they do and how they do it. Could I sit in on like, just seeing how some of your sales calls go? Could I be present in the room or, at your desk or whatever when you make a couple of these, just so I understand what's involved? That would be like a real help if you've never done that actual type of thing yourself, Okay, so, you say you've been in sales inside and outside. Okay, so you know the ropes. Okay, so you put all that together and there's no reason that I can spot that would be any kind of special challenge or hurdle for you. It seems like you've got everything you need. You have all the soft skills, you've got the hard skills, and you've got previous experience, and presumably you're somewhat familiar with the products involved. So, yeah, I don't see any reason why you should have any exotic difficulties in doing this. It would just be, it seems like you're a fit, unless there's something else that I'm not realizing. Yeah, I mean, previous inside and outside sales experience. I mean, that qualifies you right there. Assuming it's in like, the relevant context, right? It's not like you sold animals to circuses or something like that 35 years ago, or whatever. And then in your spare time, you sold animals to slaughterhouses, something like that. I don't know. Here's my attempt at a joke. Anyway, we got 28 people here. TGIF, everyone. Hopefully you're doing fine. Hopefully you're keeping your spirits up as much as possible during your job search. I know it can be rough. I know that it can be very discouraging. Rejection is not easy to take for a lot of people, especially persistent rejection, whether it's direct or indirect. Not easy. Just remember, you're awesome and you're valuable and you're highly employable. And right now, out there, there's a job waiting for you. Someone is looking for someone with everything you have right now. It's just that you're over here and they're over there, and there's no connection between you right now. Right? That's the only reason that you haven't found them yet. But sooner or later, you'll make that connection and it'll work out. It's amazing how quickly things can change. Just something that can help is, especially for a lot of technical people, introverted people, and I am both of those myself, so I know what I'm talking about, is try as much as possible, just keep your ego in check. It's like sometimes people will refuse to do certain things on principle because they perceive it as being rude or stupid. And it could well be rude and stupid in job search. Trust me, there's a lot of people out there that are both rude and stupid. It's a bonus if you get people that are both at once and you got to deal with them, real fun. Puts you in a great mood. But, just be open to talking to people, to contacting people. Be open to different types of jobs. You never really know how open their mind is to consider someone like you for this thing that you never envisioned yourself doing. But it turns out you have all the skills to do, you just didn't realize it. There's a lot of different type of jobs out there. Maybe widen your, sort of horizon of things you're open to, right? If they're looking for people. And I encourage everyone, as always, to don't ignore the hidden job market. If you don't know what that is, or you're ideologically opposed to it for whatever reason, you're missing out on a tremendous collection of opportunities that are right there. That's where the good jobs tend to be, and all the jobs in the hidden job market have substantially less competition. Instead of going up against several hundred people, you're going up against 2 people, things like that, right? So it's well worth your effort to learn about that stuff and, take advantage of it. I think we're going to wind this down. And if anyone has any questions, ask them literally right now, because I'll be wrapping this up in about a minute. There are 28 people here. Thank you for being here. And it's good to see that you're trying to do some self-improvement. Just to reiterate, I recommend everyone, especially if you're new to interviews, you haven't done a million interviews, get on ChatGPT or any other chatbot and just ask it questions like this, like what we were doing earlier, talking about what is the protocol for this type of situation in a job interview, right? So some of your fears, if you think of what's your biggest fears, my fear is that they'll say something borderline insulting to me. My fear is that they'll ask me about, they'll point out in a statement that I don't seem to have a lot of experience with this. What do I say? What do I do? Run this stuff by some of these chatbots, and they give you very basic answers, but they give you good answers. So if you don't know this stuff already, you could do a lot worse than bone up on it. Maybe on Monday, as I said, take 2 hours if you can, and just hit a chatbot and go through all your biggest fears about when you get to a job interview. What should you do in that situation? Okay. And at least it'll sort of give you an idea of, the type of thing that you can try and do. Then if you're doing mock interviews with a friend or family member, they're helping you out by doing pretend job interviews. Tell them okay, you pretend to be the interviewer and I'm the candidate. And, you can ask me these questions or you can make up your own questions. Don't be super nice. Put me through the ringer, because I want to see what people could say to me realistically. And I want to practice being prepared for it, So do this kind of work on your own and then practice it with someone else. If you are looking for a professional career coach, I don't provide those services, but there are many people who do. The person that on YouTube that you could do a lot worse than to contact would be Abby from the YouTube channel Life Work Balance. We've collaborated on a few live streams. She offers these services, and she has said that, even one sort of interview, one session with her where she's live doing a, like on a Zoom call with you, can help to identify a lot of sort of issues and stuff. And then you could just fix those. So if that's something you're interested in doing, check out her channel. She provides that stuff. Once again, check out my courses. I have a lot of information there on job search, how to get hired, all the networking stuff, all the regular job search stuff. It's all right here. That's to learn business if you're wanting to get a management role. It's also great for entrepreneurship and stuff like that. And finally, if you are trying to climb the ladder, you're tacking on some above average communication skills and interpersonal skills. That's where I put all my knowledge and experience that I've gained in my career into that course. So check that out. I will be back on Monday. I have a couple of live streams on Monday where it's a bit of a weird week. On next week, I don't have my usual collaborative live stream. I don't have side hustle ideas. We're taking a week off from that to do another episode of Honest HR Nitrous. So I'll see you next week. Have yourself a great weekend. Try and do something fun. Feel good about yourself. And I will see you next week. Take care.